Problem Stats Kids, this is Dr. Callahan with week 16 Monday. How are you guys doing? I hope you guys had a wonderful weekend. So take a look at the following 3 questions for your warm-up block. Go ahead and pause the video and answer the following 3 questions. Keep in mind your warm-up block is due on week 18. It's worth 300 points, and I'll be sending you guys more information as to how to go about submitting that. All right, you guys. So as usual, your assignments are always going to be posted on MS Team. There's a lot of you guys who are doing an awesome job at this, but there are also a few of you guys that are not checking in with me, in which case you're going to be marked absent, but also you're not going to get the grades. So keep that in mind. So for Problem Stats, this is where you guys should be going. Every day you have your assignments. So like, for example, today's week 16 Monday, but yesterday was for week 15 Friday. And your assignment is always due on that day. So it's not due in like a week from there. So just keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and create the assignment for week 16 Monday. And so I'm going to go ahead and create the new one. This is going to be your title. Your instructions for this is the same as usual. A second here, let's move this. Which is the view. Watch the video, comment, fill out the guided notes, and then show your work, take a picture of it, and then upload it for me. If you, however, need to go ahead and meet with me, I am here Monday through Friday on Zoom from 10:10 to 10:30. This is not mandatory, but if you have questions, this is a good time to get to, hold of me. Or if you go ahead and need to email me, I'm going to include my email as well. And you're welcome to go ahead and contact me that way, in addition to everything else. So in Callahan at washoeschools.net. All right, so the resources you'll need for this class is the guided notes for today. Most of you guys have the packet. However, if you don't have that, I'm going to go ahead and attach it to this as well. So that way you do have it and you won't need to come in person and grab it. However, if you would like a hard copy, you're welcome to send me an email and I'll just drop it off for you in the main office where you can come over here and pick it up yourself. That's fine as well. But for today, it's week 16 Monday, and so I'm going to go ahead and make sure I attach this to this lesson as well for you guys. And I'm going to click on done. Your assignment is always due the day of, so that will be December 7th, which is today by 11:59 p.m. Your points are always going to be worth 10. And if you do view it, which I'll be able to see, you'll be marked present for the day. However, if you do not turn in and submit your assignment, you will get a 0 for that assignment. So just keep that in mind. All right, so then at this point, you should have this available for you. And I'm actually going to go back here, and I forgot to add the other Prop and Stats class because they will probably need to have access to that as well. So let's go ahead and edit the assignment and add the other Prop and Stats class, which I don't really see that as an option. That's okay, because I'll just come back over here and redo it here for the other 6-period Prop and Stats. So assignment, create the assignment. The title of assignment today, we're going to talk about is going to be on sample calculation. So let's go to week 16 Monday, rename, copy. paste it here. Your instruction today is exactly the same as any other day. 10 points. It is due on the 7th. And I think that's basically it. Oh, you know what? I want to add a resource so that way you guys have access to that. Perfect. All right, and I went ahead and clicked on assign, so you guys should have that. I do, however, want you guys to be cognizant of this. When you guys view the assignment, I will go ahead and take the attendance. If I see that, attendance. Watch a video, comment, upload. And once you do upload, that is going to be for grade each day. And if you don't upload it, unfortunately, you will not be able to get that. So just keep that in mind. All right, let's go ahead and switch over back to this. So you have your warm up right here. And I just want to make sure I have it on the right page. Awesome. So let's go ahead and move on. So today is week 16, Monday. Keep in mind that next week is going to be 17, and the week after that is going to be week 18, which is the week of your final. So we're kind of getting close to the end here. You do, however, need to have 60% in order to pass this class. You can turn in any assignment between now and the day of the final to raise your grade. If you're not quite sure what to do, you're welcome to email me, but you need to fill out your packet, watch the video, do the assignments, and then take a picture and just turn it in. And I'll go ahead and update your grade as I receive your emails or as you turn things in. But 60%, you guys, and that is your goal. All right, so last time I saw you guys, we did a probability statistic term with a crossword puzzle. These are the answers. You're welcome to go and take a look at this and pause the video. This is a breakdown for today. Today, we're going to talk about the sample mean and the calculation of the sample standard deviation. You're going to need a calculator, and we're going to go over 3 different examples, some of which will be in your notes. The other 3 examples are not, so you need to have an extra piece of paper. And with that said, let's go ahead and continue. Your homework tonight is going to be on 5.4. You need to go to your Google Doc for week 16, Monday. And the textbook should be there, so make sure you guys just go ahead and show your work on your guided notes for that in the homework template section. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Go ahead and turn over to this page in your white guided notes. Today we're going to talk about, can you find the sample distribution and verify their properties? Can you find the standard error of the mean? And can you interpret the central limit theorem? All right, so sampling distributions. If repeated samples of a populations are taken, we take the mean, and the mean has 2 different symbols here. You can either have the symbol with a U or the symbol with an X bar of each sample. If we use each mean as an entry, we create a sampling distribution of the sample mean, formed when samples of the size n are repeatedly taken from a population. The mean is calculated from each sample, and then the means are collected to form a distribution. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at example 1. So what's given here is that your mean is 50. I'm sorry, your mean is 150. Your number of participant is 50 people, and your standard deviation is 25. So the formula to calculate the sample mean is U of X bar is equal to the sample standard deviation divided by the square root of the sample size. So if I just substitute it in, I will have the sample standard deviation as 25. The number of people involved, which is n, is 50. So then if I go ahead and do this, I will know that I'm going to have a 25 divided by 5 square root 5, or 2. So you want to plug this into your calculator, and you should have your sample mean as 3.54. And that is your answer. So make sure you know where the buttons are so you're able to calculate that. All right, so with the next example, I want you guys to go ahead and find the sample mean and the sample standard deviation with the following example. Okay, so it's given to you that the sample size is 144, your mean is 225, and your standard deviation is 36. Now remember, your formula for this is going to be standard deviation divided by the square root of sample size n. So take a look at that. All right, so now that you have the formula here, you're going to put 25 on top and then the square root of n, which is 50. And let's go ahead and take a look at that. All right, so you should have the sample size as going to be 1.58, which we just found from the last example. You should have your mean as 9.48. And so if we're going to go ahead and draw this, your mean is going to be right here in the middle, which is going to be 9.48. And then your standard deviation is 1.58. So right here, where it is 1 standard deviation, you're going to have 9.48 plus 1.58, which is going to give you 11.06. And then over here at 2 standard deviations, it has to be 11.06 plus 1.58, which will give you a 12.64. And then right here at 3 standard deviations, it is going to be 12.64 plus 1.58, which is going to give you a 14.22. So make sure you're labeling it. So you have this, the first standard deviation, second standard deviation, third standard deviation, and there's your mean. Now, similarly to that, on the left side of this is going to be minus 1 standard deviation, which is just going to be the mean, 9.48 minus 1.58. So make sure you put that in your calculator. And that'll give you a 7.9 m minus 1 standard deviation. M minus 2 standard deviation, it's 7.9 minus the standard deviation 1.48 or 58, which is going to give you a standard deviation, or which is going to give you 6.32 at minus 2 standard deviation. And then minus 3 standard deviation, you'll have 6.32 minus 1.58, which is going to give you 4.74. And so minus 1 standard deviation, minus 2 standard deviation, minus 3 standard deviation. If you're having difficulty figuring out where the square root button is, the square root button is right here, this little symbol right there. But in order to reach that, because it's not on the button, it's behind the button, you gotta click the second button first on your calculator in order to get to the square root. So just so you know where that button is. All right, example 2, let's find the sample mean and sample standard deviation, given that the mean is 122, or the sample size is 122, the mean is 375, and the standard deviation is 68. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's first find the mean of this. This is what's given. And the formula to find the mean is going to be u over the square root of n. So then looking at this, what is your u? It is 150 divided by the square root of n, which is 250. If you go ahead and reduce that, you should find out that at the bottom, the square root of 250 is going to give you 15.81. So you want to do that first. You want to do this calculation in the calculator and get 15.81. And then you're going to do it one more time, which is going to be to divide it. So go ahead and do that. Okay, and then once you divide it, your mean is going to be, your sample mean is 9.48. Now that we found the sample mean, let's now find the sample standard deviation. Okay, so the formula for the sample standard deviation looks like this, and the formula is standard deviation divided by the square root of the sample size. And so that's just going to be 25 divided by the square root of 250. You know the square root of 250 from before is 15.81. So you want to go ahead and divide that. 25 divided by 15.81 is going to give you a sample standard deviation of 1.58. Okay. Now, we have already drawn this using the information that we did before, so you should know that. Before, I actually didn't teach you how to find this. I taught you how to find this one, but not the other one. But now, you guys know. All right, let's move on to the next part here, okay? Copy this part down back into your guided notes as you write this. So notice that the sample distribution is always going to be in a shape of a bell curve. Left side of the bell is the negative standard deviation. Right side of the bell curve is going to be the positive standard deviation. Properties of the sampling distribution of a sample mean. The mean of the sample deviation, or the sample mean, is always U x bar is equal to the population mean U. So U x bar equals U divided by square root of n. So this is the formula to find the sample mean. The standard deviation of the sample mean, which is symbolized by this little wiggly circle thing, x bar, is equal to the population standard deviation divided by the square root of the sample size. So this is your formula for the sample standard deviation. So both of these formulas we just use. All right, example 3. Go ahead and copy this part down on a separate piece of paper. Find the mean of the same mean. Find the standard deviation of the same mean. Okay, so this is what's given to you. Now you're going to be using the formula to go ahead and find this. There is your formula for the sample mean. And here's your formula for the sample standard deviation. So your job right now is to go ahead and plug these informations in there and find the sample mean and the sample standard deviation. Now you know that your N is going to be 123. And you also know that your U is going to be 51. And you also know that your standard deviation is 3.2. So your sample mean is going to be 4.5. And your sample standard deviation is going to be 0.29. And if you're like, how did you get that, Callahan? Remember I told you you want to go ahead and do the square root of 123 first, which is going to give you a 11.09. And then just take 51 divided by 11.09, and you should get 4.5. Same thing over here. And now that you have both of those information, let's go ahead and put it on the bell curve one more time. Now, the information that you will need for this, to do this, is going to be the sample size, is the mean and also the standard deviation. So you would need that information to draw the bell curve. So that information, I'm going to go ahead and just provide it for you guys right here. So that way you have it. Okay, so here we go. There's your bell curve. You know your mean is going to be starting off at 4.5. So right here is my mean. It's going to be at 4.5. Okay. And then from there, we're going to start off at +1 standard deviation, which is right here. So +1 standard deviation is going to be 4.5 plus the standard deviation of 0.29. Which is going to give you 4.79 at 1 standard deviation. At +2 standard deviation is 4.79 plus 0.29, which is going to give you a 5.08. And then at +3 standard deviation, you're going to do 5.08 plus 0.29, which is going to give you a 5.37. Okay, so then the positive standard deviation, these are your answers. Now you're going to do the same thing on the left side. So at the -1 standard deviation, it is going to be the mean, which is 4.5 minus 0.29. And that's going to give you 4.21. Do the same thing as -2 standard deviation, which is going to be 4.21 minus a standard deviation of 0.29. And that's going to give you a 3.92. And then lastly, at -3 standard deviation, 3.92 minus 0.29. And that gives you 3.63. So looking at the -1 standard deviation, -2 standard deviation, -3 standard deviation, this is what your bell curve should look like. All right, you guys, next thing that I want you guys to do is take a look over here. Go ahead and copy down the notes for this in your guided notes. Pause the video and go ahead and do that. Next part, in the case of n is not bigger than 30 or the population is not normally distributed, you cannot complete the problem. So just keep that in mind, okay? Go ahead and copy this part down right here on top in your guided notes. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at example 1. Please highlight the important information. And it says the bill for residents of a city has a mean of $64, standard deviation of $9, so it's going to go upward below by $9. Random sample of 36 phone bills are drawn, so n equals 36 from this population, and the mean of each sample is determined. I want you guys to find the mean, the standard deviation of the mean of the sampling distribution, then sketch the graph to represent this. All right, so let's talk about the given information. Mean is 64. That's the first thing that's given to me, okay? Standard deviation is 9. So that little squiggly thing is equal to 9. There are 36 people, so n equals 36. Now let's go ahead and check. Is n bigger than 30? Yes, it is. It is bigger than 30. And so let's go ahead and calculate the standard deviation, sample standard deviation, which is going to be 9, which is a standard deviation, divided by the square root of the sample size, which is 36. Square root of 36 is 6. So what is 9 divided by 6? You should calculate that as 1.5. And that is your answer for the standard sample standard deviation. Now let's go ahead and calculate the mean, okay? So it's given to you that, hold on a second, let me see this for a second. Okay, next part we need to do, because I kind of did not include that information, is your sample mean. Your sample mean is going to be the 64 divided by the sample size, which is 36. So 64 divided by 6 is going to give you a 10.67. And that is going to be the mean, okay? So you're going to need this information to draw your bell graph. So just like how we did this before, you need the standard deviation and also the mean to draw your bell curve. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so here's your bell curve. There are the information that you got from the last example because we just found that. So let's go ahead and draw this. So your mean is right here in the middle, and that's going to be 10.67. I want you to calculate the 1 standard deviation, 2 standard deviation, 3 standard deviation on the right side, minus 1 standard deviation, minus 2, and minus 3 on the left side. So go ahead and do that. Pause the video. All right, example 2. Go ahead and highlight the information that's really important here. The height of the fully grown tree is normally distributed with a mean of 90 feet and the standard deviation of 3.5. Random sample of 4, so n equals 4 are drawn. I want you to find the mean, the standard deviation, and then draw the bell curve. So let's take a look at the given information. It's given to you that the mean is 90, the standard deviation is 3.5, and n is 4. So is the population normally distributed as in it's less than 30? Yes, it is. And is n bigger than 30? No, it is smaller than 30. So let's find the standard deviation. So standard deviation is going to be 3.5. 3.5 goes there. N is 4. Square root of 4 is just going to give you a 2. So what's 3.5 divided by 2? It is a 1.75. Now, similarly, you will need to go ahead and find the mean. So we're going to use 90 divided by the square root of the sample size, which is 4, which is 90 over 2. Square root of 4 is 2. And that gives you 45. So now with these two informations here, you're going to once again draw your bell curve. And this is the information that I need to do that. Oops, hold on a second. Okay, and so then I'm going to put this right here so we still have access to that information. All right, so let's take a look at the bell curve. So with your bell curve, your mean is going to be 45. And then I want you to figure out what is plus 1 standard deviation, plus 2 standard deviation, plus 3 standard deviation. For the plus 1 standard deviation, you're going to do 45 plus 1.75. And keep going with that. On the minus 1 standard deviation, it is going to be 45 minus 1.75. And go ahead and calculate that. All right, you guys, the very last thing I need you guys to do is make sure you have this piece of paper in front of you that looks like this. Okay, you can have access to this on the attachment on week 16 Monday as well. And this is the reflection for you guys. So make sure you guys take a picture and upload this. I will highly suggest that you go ahead and fill this part out. One is on the growth mindset for self-reflection. The other one is things that help me learn. So looking at this right here, I want you guys to go ahead and put a number to each of these things that's important to you. And you're going to be writing down a little like me, quite like me, very much like me, 1, 2, and 3. So like, for example, I treat other people with respect, very much like me. All right, so go ahead and do that. Then afterwards, take a look bottom over here. Growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. So rather than say, I can't do this, what's another way that you can rewrite that as? And then courage is being scared to death and saddling up anyways. It's a quote from John Wayne. What does this quote mean to you? How can you apply this quote to your own life? Brainstorm a list of things that you would be afraid of to do, and then describe a time when you felt scared and you were able to move forward. How did you overcome that fear? So this is the last part of your assignment today. And your exit ticket for today is right here. Circle the emoji that reflects how you got on today in today's lesson. Explain your reasoning. All right, you guys, I hope you have a wonderful week. And as always, stay safe and healthy. Take care.